parable called the Rabbi of Gur. And the story goes that just before the start of World War II, whenever Germany was about to invade Poland, Britain were not yet involved, war had not yet been declared, but it was becoming increasingly obvious that the Jews were being persecuted in Germany. Concentration camps were set up, etc. And there was a rabbi who escaped one of these camps and found his way to the UK and was able to have a meeting with Winston Churchill. And the story goes that he was trying to convince Winston Churchill to do something about what was happening in Germany at the time. And Churchill said to him, well, what do you suggest? What are the options? And the rabbi looked at him and said, well, there are two ways that this can be solved. There is the natural way and there is the supernatural way. The natural way is if 10,000 angels descend from the heavens with flaming swords and crush the Nazi war machine. But the supernatural way would be if 10,000 Englishmen parachuted into Germany and crushed the Nazi war machine. And I really like this because, of course, it's playing with this switch. He's saying that the natural would be these angels descending from heaven, but the supernatural would be the British entering into the war. And sure enough, a couple of days after Germany invaded Poland, Britain formally declared war on Germany. Now, one way to interpret this is to think about how if 10,000 angels descended from the heavens, this would be a natural event. Because if we literally imagined these angels with their flaming swords, we would be able to see them. We would be able to see the devastation that they create. Those swords would cut through steel. So it would be in the natural realm. It would be part of nature. Because nature is the realm of being. It's the realm of things that you can touch, taste, and see. But the supernatural is something akin to what in philosophy is called an event. So in religion it's called a miracle, in philosophy it's an event. But it's something that cannot be seen, cannot be recorded. Its effects can be seen, but not the actual event itself. And this is a change in heart, a change in the heart of the British, a change in their commitment to no longer appease the Nazis, but rather attempt to stand up against them. And this is basically what, that phrase, the revolution will not be televised. That's what that means. The revolution will not be televised means that the revolution is in our subjectivity. It's in our hearts. So it's something that you cannot record with a camera. You cannot see, you cannot taste. It's a type of event that changes people. So you can see its effects ripple through the world, but it is a miracle. It is an event. It is supernatural, beyond what you can taste, touch, and see. And great historical events are miracles or events. So the French Revolution is not simply a historical event where various things took place. The French Revolution is also a subjective event. It was something that captured the hearts and minds of people and that opened up a vision of a new type of world, a new type of way of being together. And interestingly, this is, within confessional Christianity, a pretty commonplace that the miracles are not the physical events that are described. There's this kind of like a strategy used by the gospel writers where they talk about some physical event that takes place that is kind of miraculous in the sense that it goes against the laws of nature, or not goes against them, but rather seems to be something is intervening in the laws of nature. This is what C.S. Lewis talked about in terms of miracles, where he says, like, if I shoot a gun and the bullet kind of goes off in a different direction, a miracle is the bullet going off in a different direction. It's not defying the laws of gravity, not if like God flicked it, right? So it's just something's entering into the world and kind of like making a difference. So it's not about square triangles or anything like that. It's about a being intervening in the world. But actually, like in the Gospels, these events, I think, are primarily designed to grab the reader and point towards the real miracle. So whenever you read a miracle, say in the Gospels, you've got to not get caught up in the idea that the feeding of the 5,000 is the miracle. It's what that means. It's what vision of the future, the vision of a different type of world it brings into being, right? So the miracle is not in the physical event, it's in something else. And I actually wanted to show you a clip of a miracle. And just to give you a little background of this, this is a woman who was analysed by Lacan. And Lacan, if you know, was a bit of a crazy analyst, right? So although he was a psychoanalyst, one of the most famous, he did have a very aggressive form of analysis. He was the inventor of what's called a variable length session. And the variable length session is where you can come into the room for 5 minutes and then your session's over, right? You're paying your $100, so your $150 for your 45-minute hour, right? And then you walk in and you sit down and the analyst says, okay, we're done, you can leave. Now, I did Lacanian analysis with a guy called Bruce Fink, who is a Lacanian analyst I really respect. And he short sessioned me all the time. Now, that's the bad way of saying it. Short sessioning is kind of like the the unofficial name for it. And he short sessioned me all the time. And but I understand why he was doing it, because it's very hard to evoke anything in me. I think I was very too calm, too detached, and part of short sessioning somebody, you get them angry, right? You get them annoyed and frustrated and all of that. But it was funny, and there was one day, I'll just tell you this. I was analysed by two people. Bruce Fink was one of them, and a woman called Patricia Garavici. And I remember telling Patricia that I was saying about how I was getting frustrated by these short sessions. She did it less, but I was saying, it really annoys me because, I feel like, I'm just getting to something, just getting really into some sort of key, and then I'll raise my voice, like I'll get excited and then the session will end. And she said, like, did that frustrate you? And I was like, yeah, it frustrates me loads. And then she went, okay, that's the session over. So she literally did the thing that I was saying that really frustrated me. So that's the variable length session. Only Lacanians really use it. But I think it's a really interesting device. Because sometimes, if you have a conversation with someone and then you kind of maybe hit a point where something really important is said. After that, you can just waffle, right? Sometimes, if you hit the thing that you needed to talk about, just leave it there and then you remember it. So in a therapy session, you might be talking and 5 minutes in, you have this big insight. And so they go, right, let's cut it there. And then that is in your head, it plays, it's going around and, and then you might dream about it that night. So there's various ways you can use this. But like Lacan went crazy with it. Supposedly he would do things like, he would have loads of people in his waiting room because he was a bit of a cult figure, but nobody would know when they would be seen or even if they would be seen. And he would come out of the office and he would just point at someone and then they would walk in and they would have their analysis with Lacan for 30 seconds or 3 hours, but they'd leave and then he'd come out and point at someone else. And he supposedly had this big drawer just full of money. So he would take the money, put it in the drawer. Don't think he was that interested in the money. He just had this money drawer. And he would, supposedly one time someone was walking to the clinic and Lacan shouted out from the window that the session was over. So before the guy had even got in the door, the session was over. So all of this is going on. You kind of wonder, my goodness, did he help anybody or was it an absolute disaster? But on French TV a number of years ago, they did a program on Lacan, and there was a clip I think they maybe had various clips from people who were his analysans. And the clip I'm going to show you is from one of them.
Un jour, dans une séance, je parle à Lacan d'un rêve que j'ai fait. Un rêve, et je lui dis, je me réveille tous les matins à 5 heures. Et j'ajoute, c'est à 5 heures que la Gestapo est venue chercher les Juifs dans leur maison. À ce moment, Lacan se lève comme une flèche de son fauteuil, vient vers moi et me fait une caresse extrêmement douce sur la joue. J'ai compris, Gestapo, le geste.
Il avait transformé la Gestapo en un geste.
Un geste tendre, il faut le dire. Un geste extrêmement tendre. Et cette surprise-là, ça n'a pas diminué la douleur, mais ça en a fait autre chose. La preuve, maintenant, 40 ans après, je le raconte encore, ce geste, je l'ai encore sur la joue. C'est un geste aussi qui un appel à l'humanité, quelque chose.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely beautiful. So it's a little gesture of an intervention that happens very occasionally in analysis or in life. And this woman, as you could see, she was having nightmares about the Gestapo coming at 5 a.m. to round up her family, her friends, bring people to the concentration camps. This had been with her. This was a trauma. And as she was telling this story, and as she used the word Gestapo, Lacan jumped up from his chair and just gently caressed her cheek. And in French, that is Gestapo, right? So he didn't, I don't even think he said the words, he just caressed the cheek. And immediately, this word, this signifier, changed its signification. It became something else. It was reinscribed with a new meaning. Now, the events, the miracle, required a material base. The material base was the touch. It actually required the right conditions, right? So Lacan is looking for the right conditions. This is analysis that's been going on. So it requires the right conditions, and then it requires a material base, which is this leaping up and doing a very bizarre thing, just caressing the cheek as she says the word Gestapo. And the event unfolds. So much so that she says 40 years later, she can still feel that caress on her cheek when she uses the word Gestapo. So I'll finish with another parable, and then I want to kind of open it up for questions and thoughts and just have a wider conversation.